So the first step in making a layer cake is you have to split the cake layer. This can be sort of a scary thing for people if you're not very experienced doing it, but it's really not hard. Start with a serrated knife that's wider than the cake, preferably, because if you use a knife that's not wider, as you go around you can kind of end up sort of slivering the cake on the inside, and that's not ideal. It's not a big deal if you don't have a knife that's wider than the cake, but this really helps. So you're going to take the knife and get down on eye level with the cake and sort of trace a line around the cake with the knife. You're splitting it in half. Okay. It's not a super big deal if it's not exactly even. Just tracing, tracing. Now, once you get back to the start, you're going to start cutting through the cake. And you're just going to follow that line. Don't worry about what this end of the knife is doing. Just watch this part, because the rest of this knife is going to follow what this end does. So start slicing and follow the line that you traced before. Just go around. Gently saw. A split cake layer. Okay. All right. And just brush the crumbs, the big crumbs. You can't brush too hard or you're going to keep making more crumbs too. But brush the crumbs. Just smooth it out. Okay, this is going to be the bottom of our cake. I'm going to transfer it to my cake plate, which is lined with wax paper. The wax paper is going to keep the cake plate clean. Now I have this cake plate on a cake turntable, which makes it easier to work around the cake as you're going, but this isn't completely necessary. It's just a nice little accessory to have. So in between each layer, we're going to use about 1.5 cups of this buttercream. A scant 1.5 cups, not a ton. This is a 1.5 cup measure. I'm just going to plop it right on there in the center and spread it around. You can, for this stage, you can use a flat spatula like this, or you can use an icing spatula, which I'll be getting out shortly when we do the outside frosting. So we're just going to spread it to the edges. This is the filling, so you just want it to be more or less even, but it doesn't have to be neat. Okay, that's good enough. Next, the second layer goes on. This cake, if it weren't so nice and flat, I would have leveled it. But because it's so nice and flat, it doesn't need to be leveled. If your cakes come out a little bit domed, just take a knife and slice off the dome so that you have a flat surface. With layer cakes, it's really important that everything is sort of level, because otherwise things can go sliding off to the side. So in the same vein, if you don't get a nice even split, you want to match up the layers so that they level themselves out. So this is only the bottom half of the cake. We still have a whole nother cake to go. So I'm going to split that, and then I'll be back to finish frosting the cake. Okay, so I split my second cake. I still need to top this layer. So another scant 1.5 cups of this luscious buttercream. Okay, layer number 3. At this point, just kind of look down on it to make sure that you're stacking things up straight so that your cake doesn't end up all lopsided. That looks pretty good. 1.5 cups more, scant. And the top layer. So now I'm going to put what's called a crumb coat onto the cake. This is a very thin layer of icing that's going to go on and basically seal the crumbs in so that the crumbs don't get mixed into the icing that's going to go on later on. So I've taken about 1/2 cup of our buttercream out because there are going to be crumbs that are going to end up getting mixed in here from this spatula going back and forth. So we're just going to Spread it on in a really thin coat. This is not your final layer, so it definitely doesn't have to look pretty. And you can use a little bit of the whatever frosting is squeezed out from the inside. With a crumb coat, you can still see the layers of the cakes through the outside. In a way, you can almost think of this as spackle, because you're sort of smoothing the edges. And before we continue to ice the cake, we're going to put it in the fridge and let it firm up. Or like spackle, let it dry. Okay, I think that's good. So now I'm going to put that in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes to let this firm up. Okay, so our cake's been in the refrigerator firming up for about 20 minutes. You can see it's a little bit hard now, so we can go ahead and frost it. This is the fun part. So there's no real science to this. You can start on the top, you can start on the sides. I kind of like to start on the sides. And I'm just going to sort of slather this frosting all over the cake. We're not going for a really straight-sided, neat-looking bakery-style cake. This is more of a home-style swirly cake. So right now I'm just going to try to concentrate on spreading the frosting out evenly all over the cake, and then I'm going to come back and sort of swirl it around and play with it a little bit. That's why it's fun. So I'm frosting the left side of the cake with my right hand because this is just the angle that's most comfortable with this particular type of spatula, this offset spatula. If I were to be frosting my right hand on the right side of the cake, it would be sort of an awkward angle. There's no nice way to do that. So this way I can just press on the frosting. I'll do the top, make sure I don't use everything up on the sides before I get the frosting on the top. May as well use it all, right? Don't forget about the edges down near the bottom. I just noticed that I was sort of light on the bottom edge. See right there? I want to get a little more frosting down in there, because when I pull away this paper here, it's going to pull some of the frosting out too, so you definitely don't want to be light to begin with. This is going to be good. Now there are various ways that you can decorate the cake. You know, you could do like little ridges on the side if you want to go for that look, or if you don't like that, smooth it out, start over. You know, you just kind of work the frosting until you get a look that you like. So I just want sort of a rough look on the edges, I think. And then if you want a swoopy look, you can kind of drag the frosting around with a spoon. And the back of a spoon gives it a swirly, I could leave it like that. Another thing that I like to do with cakes is also to just do a wide swoop, which I think looks really pretty too. Once you get it to the point where it's pretty, just gently hold the other side down and gently work your paper out. Okay, there's one. There's two. The last one's going to be a little bit tricky. I'm I'm just going to lift the cake just a bit. And voila. And now for the reward. You get to eat the cake.